Page next to page 45. Right, screener 2. Achke will be starting this topic and also wrapping it up. It's called superposition. Okay, so superposition based where the rest of the syllabus of waves is based on. So waves actually basically baki nai, but jeta baki ota onek in depth jante hobe. So we have something called stationary waves. That's what we're going to start right now. And then there's something called diffraction interference, double slit diffraction grating. That will be the end of waves. So let's start with superposition here. So what is superposition? I think I showed an animation last class. Do you remember? Two waves interfering with each other, right? Anyways, Jina Monetake, I will draw and show you what this is, okay? So essentially the idea is that when you have two waves, right, and they are moving towards each other, so this is the wave and this is the wave. If they're moving towards each other, what will happen is that there'll be a point where the waves will meet or interfere or superpose. So you can use one of these three words only: meet, interfere, or superpose. You can't use any other word, okay? So what happens is these waves will move towards each other and they will meet, interfere, superpose. So dhoro je erokom ashlo. Do you think these two pulses have met yet? No, right? Okay. They'll go a little further. At that point, they just have met. But they pointer meet korse, oi pointer you notice karo, that point doesn't really have any what available energy, right? So will you see anything happen at that place? No, right? However, as this moves little further forwards and this moves little further forwards that way, ওদের অনেকগুলো point overlap করতেছে. So basically, you know, this point, that point, that point, that point. So all these points are overlapping. So if you want to learn how to figure out how they overlap, there's actually a trick here. Trickটা হচ্ছে, what you need to do is draw lines. So draw a line here, draw a line there, draw a line everywhere you want the value for. So imagine like a graph or something. And once you draw these lines, you'll notice that a liner upore, both the waves appear in different places. Let me show you. That's only the idea of it. So can you tell me for the first line? Okay, first line is this one. What is the value of the red wave? 0. Can we just 0? And do you see that the blue wave has a high value, right? So let's call this value like, you know, 5 or something. So a জায়গাটাকে আমরা এখন replot করব. Okay, let me show you কি করব আমরা এই জায়গাটাকে replot করব. So blue আর red মিলে যে ভ্যালুটা আসে এটা ধরে যে এই ভ্যালুটাই থাকবে. Okay, can you tell me for basically I'm adding the values. Okay, so when you have two graphs and they overlap each other, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to add the values. So right, so I'll take this again. I will make this lighter for you guys. So এখানে purple টা হচ্ছে the resultant. Okay, now can you tell me for the second line, is red 0? That place there is red 0? No, right? Is blue that higher value though? No, right? Mane, what I mean is that আগের থেকে তো একটু কম blue, right? Or red কি আগের থেকে একটু বেশি না? But when you add these two up, they will probably give you a higher value than before, right? Because imagine this is 5 and this is 0. What's the sound? 5. Now that's, let's say 4, and this is, let's say 2. What's the sound? 6, right? Yeah, so it's higher as well. Tarporta is like 3 and 3 or something. Start করবে কমে কমে একবার এরকম হয়ে গেল. So middle what we notice is that when these two waves interfere, right? This is the part that's on this side. You don't need to really worry about what I'm trying to do here. I'm just trying to show you the actual way of this. Okay. So a মাঝখানে যেটা দেখা যাবে, the two waves interfere and they'll create a pattern that looks like this. And the net wave মানে the overall that you see looks something like this. Whatever you just see happen there is called superposition. Meaning that when waves overlap, interfere, right? The resultant is the what of their displacement. addition, right? They just add them, right? Superposition definition is when two interferes, right? The resultant is the vector summation of the visual displacement. And every time I show this version, right? Students get very confused, like what's happening, right? So that's why what I do is I will show you with something else, and that I feel is much easier. Okay, are you expected to do during your exam? Absolutely not. This is very complicated. Like you know, plot a graph, find the values, trace the values, right? Some the syllabus is key. Some the syllabus they have a much easier version out there, which is আমরা এখন try করবো, okay? What I'm going to give you. And এটা না পারার কিছু নাই. You don't need to have physics for this. You need to have grade 3 math. Right. So what you see here is two waves here. Did we do this last class? Not right. Okay. So you have these two waves here, and যেটা তোমাদের করতে হবে is you need to find the resultant of these two waves for me. So এই দুটো ওয়েভের রেজাল্টেন্টটা কিরকম দেখতে হবে ওটা পাশে স্কেচ করতে হবে. So you have to do this in your copy right now. আমি বলি কি হচ্ছে এখানে before we start. Do you see this blue line here? This blue line happens to be a wave, okay? And this red line that you see here also happens to be a wave. And these two were moving in opposite direction. And then at one point, what did they do? Overlap, meet, interfere, superpose, right? And you're looking at that moment when they interfered. So now my question is, when they interfere, you won't be looking at the blue or the red. What will you be looking at? The resultant. Draw the resultant for me. So try Koro. Each box here is 1 centimeter. It's a sketch. It'll take maximum 30 seconds if you know your addition. What is the resultant going to look like? That's my question. Okay. These are called square waves. Square waves are produced by computing devices with highs and lows. Oh no, that's just the result you put a drop of the. Right, so you need to draw the resultant for me here. Shit, like what the diagram is supposed to be. I'll start because I need to wrap this up. So how do you do this? So look at the first box. In the first box, what is the value of blue? 0. What is the value of red? -1, right? And I told you when they superpose, right, the resultant is the vector addition of their displacement. Vector addition money. So addition means add up, right? What does vector addition? Yeah, it's an addition that includes plus and minus based on direction. Okay, so if they're up, it's plus. If they're minus, they're down. Right? You have to take that into account. Okay, so এখানে যদি একটা 0 হয় আর একটা -1 হয়, what's the resultant? -1. Then blue for the second box is how much? 2, and the red is how much? -1. What's the resultant of 2 and -1? 1. So it's going to be 1 there. তারপরেরটা হচ্ছে 0 and 1. What should that be? 1. তারপরেরটা হচ্ছে 1 and -2. What should that be? -1. 1 and -2, -1. তারপরেরটা হচ্ছে -1. তারপরেরটা হচ্ছে 0 and 2. What should that be? 2. Then it's 0 and -1. What should that be? -1. And lastটা হচ্ছে, sorry, তার আগেরটা হচ্ছে -1 and -1. 0. আর পরেরটা কত হবে? Final দুইটা box 1. That's it. That's your resultant. Do you understand? So if you're struggling here, it's because you're failing to add them properly. আর কিছু না কিন্তু এখানে কোনটাতে কনফিউশন বলো? What's the issue? I'll help. এটা -1 আর এটা 1, right? What should the resultant be? 0. এটা হচ্ছে 1 আর 0. What's the resultant? 1. 1 and 0. 1. That's it. Okay. 1 and -2 will give you -1. Anyway, do you get the idea what I'm trying to impose here? So whenever you want to find a resultant, what are you supposed to do? Just add the individual wavelengths, right? Amplitude. Why is it so difficult for a sine wave or a cosine wave to do this? Because there's so many different points out there, right? You won't really get a proper value. That's what I tried to do at the top. Is essentially what I just did here. But didn't that seem much more complicated, right? But the thing is basically just doing that. And luckily for you guys, you don't need to do this in the exam. What I'm trying to show here is a concept called superposition. And what is superposition? When two waves meet, interfere, or superpose. Superimpose like in the wrong. Superimpose is something else. Do you know what a green screen is? Green screen, you can superimpose images. That's superimpose. That's a term used to in imagery, in movie making, right? But এটাকে superpose বলা হয়। আর খুব strictly লিখে দেয় mark scheme, you can't write superimpose. It's superpose. So superposition is not superimposition, right? So that's why don't say superimpose, right? So when two waves meet, interfere, or superpose, the resultant is the vector addition of the individual what? Yes, amplitude or displacement. Amplitude the highest value থেকে বলা হয়। Okay, so individual displacement. That's it. And ওইটার উপরে এখন আমরা কিছু কাজ করব। So এটা কি বুঝছো এই আইডিয়াটা? I'll give you the definition because তোমাদের syllabus এই definitionটা খুবই common. It's like every other year they ask this. So yeah, on the page next to page 45, heading down, types of superposition. Right, screen it too. So our syllabus deals with only two superposition in particular. ওই দুটো আমরা এখন হচ্ছে observe করব. So let's see what's happening here. So you have this blue wave here, and you have this red wave here. The blue wave is traveling this way, and the red wave is traveling that way. So they will eventually what? They'll meet, right? And see what happens as this moves forward, this moves forward, this moves forward. that moves forward, and এরকম move করতে করতে একটা পয়েন্টে the waves are like this. So when the waves are like this, can you tell if the waves are completely in phase? Remember we talked about phase difference. Can I say these two waves are completely in phase? No, right? Why? Yeah, there's a gap between them. Very good, right? এখন if this happened, like this wave moved a little further, right? এই যে এখানে, isn't that like fully in phase, right? And these two waves will now meet, right? Obviously, and as they meet, what will happen? They will undergo superposition, right? And the superposition that happens here results in something unique. Unique কেন দেখাচ্ছি তোমাদেরকে? Do you think both of them have amplitude of A? Let's say the resultant would have an amplitude of how much? 2A, right? Our niche minus A. So what would that be? Minus 2A. So the whole wave will become what? Of yeah, it'll get stretched out, right? But something doesn't change. What is that? The length, the speed, the frequency, the wavelength. So basically the wave remains exactly what it is. Only one thing changes. What is that? Amplitude, right? And this kind of a superposition where the waves meet and they're perfectly meeting each other, by the way, results in a wave that has double the amplitude, right? That kind of a wave or that kind of a superposition is referred as constructive superposition. This word is going to be very important in our syllabus, okay? A type of superposition যখন হয়, it's called a constructive superposition.